Welcome back, everyone. Well, this course is project based, which means we are going to teach everything in a real world project. For example, our first mini project is a login page. We want to design a login page. And for our final project, we are going to design a whole website together. So, in order to start our first mini project, having some knowledge of HTML CSS is required. So that's why we are going to spend this session explaining some essential things, and from the next session we actually start working on that login page. So what are those necessary informations that you need to have? Well, the first thing that you need to know is actually something called attributes. Attribute is something that we attach to our tags, and it's actually some extra information about our tag. And what do we mean by that? So, in order to understand what an attribute is and why do we even need it, uh, let's imagine that I have an A tag, okay? A tag, so we learned that a span tag is used for text with no style. I tag is for italic. B tag is for representing bold. And when we saw that Wikipedia page, there were some texts that were in blue color and they were links. Basically, we could click on them and redirect user to somewhere. For example, let's imagine that I want to say click here. Okay, when I say click here, so the text is written in blue in click here, but we need to have some extra information for this tag. When user clicks on this link, where should we redirect the user to? Where? So that's why we need to have some extra information about tags. So many tags, they need some extra information, and we provide those informations using attribute, and this is an attribute. We have so many different attributes, just like we have so many different tags. For example, span tags does one thing, I tag, B tag, A tag does anything, does one thing for itself. And attributes, any attribute is used for something. And href attribute is actually used in order to write down the path of the file that we are going to redirect user to, or the web page address that we are going to redirect user to. In A tags, we have two types of links actually. One internal link, one external link. What do we mean by external link? For example, let's say, imagine that I'm going to say, hey, whenever user clicks here, redirect user to google.com. Sorry, google.com. What happens is when I come back here and in my folder, in the folder that I have, and double click on this index.html and I open this, as you can see, we have that click here. Let's zoom in a little bit actually. We have that click here, and as you can see at the bottom left of the screen, it's saying that it's gonna redirect user to google.com, and sure enough, when we clicked on this, it redirects us to google.com. So this is an external link. It means that we are redirecting user to another domain somewhere else. It's not in our website anymore. It's just inside another website. That's why it's called external link. But we do have internal links as well. But for now, you just don't need to worry about those internal links. We will see in the future that we can actually redirect user from one file to another file in our project. So we will see that. So this is it. This is what I wanted to say about attributes. So this is why we need attribute, because we sometimes need to provide some extra information for tags. And another point that I wanted you to know is that some attributes are general or global actually, which means you can attach that attribute to any tag that you like, any tag. For example, there's an attribute called lang attribute. Okay, this lang attribute is actually specifying that which language is this piece of text is written in. We can actually use lang for any tag. We can say that the lang of this attribute is en. For example, any language has two words. You can search your language in internet what that two word is. But for English is en. Okay, we can set the lang on en here. Sorry. And we can apply this lang en to anything. It's a global, it's a general attribute. But what usually happens is people attach this lang en to their HTML attribute. The HTML attribute is actually saying that my whole document is written in English. And sometimes you see that when you open a web page, and your browser pumps up and says, for example, this web page is written in French. Do you want to translate it? And one of the factors that helps that to understand this what this document is written in which language is one of them is actually this lang en or lang fr for French actually. So this is it. So some attributes are global and general. Some attributes are specific to a tag. For example, this href attribute is specific to a tag and maybe some other tags that we see, but it's not general, it's not global, because href for a span tag is meaningless. A span is not a link, a span is just a tag. So some attributes are general and some attributes are specific for a tag or maybe two tags or three tags. Okay. This is it, and the first thing that I wanted you to learn in this session was actually learn about attributes. The second thing that I want you to learn is actually about how to write CSS code. We have learned that we can write HTML code. We saw how we can do that, but we need to learn how to write CSS code as well. So there are three ways to write CSS code, and we are going to learn two ways in this session, and we are going to learn the third way in next sessions, maybe next two sessions or next three sessions. And but before we start talking about the styles, I want to have some extra tags here. For example, I want to have a b tag here, and this b tag is some bold text, okay? And actually I'm going to copy this hr tag and paste this hr tag here, and we will create a shortcut in future for duplicating lines so that we do that faster. But for now, this b tag, I'm going to have another I tag here, sorry, I tag, and the I tag that I'm going to have is some other text. Okay, and if we take a look at this result, we will see actually refresh. Each thing that we wrote is actually in a different style. This has no style, this has a bold style, this has italic, and this has some color and text on the text decoration, which it has underline. So if you take a look at this, they have different properties. We call that properties. For example, some property is called font size, some property is called color in CSS. We actually change the properties of the elements. For example, the color, the font weight, the font size. So we will learn so many properties in CSS. But let's come back to our code and let's learn how can we customize a tag's properties or styles or how they look actually. And the first way to write CSS code is actually using a style tag, and this style tag will be placed inside head section. So when we introduce new tags, we will tell you whether you need to put this tag inside head section or you need to put that inside body section. And since this style tag is some information that we are providing for the browser, it should be inside head section, because we are talking to the browser, hey browser, we want to change the color of this b text and set that to green. Okay, so we are going to first of all we need to select that b tag. Well, how do we select in CSS? We just write the name of the tag, for example b, and for one of these two characters that we use, brackets maybe they call it, But this b tag, we open these brackets or whatever the name is, and here we write some properties. In HTML, we just learn new tags and new attributes. In CSS, we learn new properties and new values. For example, one property is called color, and the color is actually used to change the color of a text. We can say color and column, and for example, something red, okay, red, or I wanted to say green, green, okay. So the property is color, and the value is actually, we have so many different ways to specify a value for color, and one way is actually a color name. And you can search all these color names in Google, for example, all CSS color names, okay. And you can see that we have so many different color names. For example, this azure or black, blue, violet. So we have so many different color names. So one way is actually using color names, okay. We have so many other ways because we have almost 16 million colors, more than 16 million colors. We cannot have a name for every single one of them. So they have come up with some methods to actually take a code or something for colors. We will see about that. But first, we are going to use a this green color. As you can see, this color names that we are going to use. So it's what we are saying. Hey, browser, go ahead and find every b tag that is in our project and set the color to green. So let's come back here, hit refresh, and as you can see, sure enough, this color is green now. So we have so many different properties. For example, one of them that we learned was color. The second one that we are going to learn is actually font size. Font size, so actually we told you we have property value, and since for color we have so many different ways for providing a value for this property, for font size as well, we have so many different ways of providing a value. We have so many different units. The first unit that we are going to learn is actually pixels. For example, let's see how this 25 pixel. Let's see how 25 pixel looks like. This is how 25 pixel looks like. And actually, if you have ever used for example, a Word document, you have actually used this pixel before, the font size pixel. This is something that you have already used. Or if you want to see how much is, for example, 48 pixels, this is actually how 48 pixel looks like. Let's come back here, hit refresh, and this is it. But actually I have zoomed a little. Let's set the zoom on 100%, and this is it. This is actually how it looks like. And in Google, in Microsoft Word or everything, this 11, 22, 26, 72, this is actually the font size, and it's in pixels. So we have so many other units for providing a font size, but we will learn about them in future. Don't worry. For now, I'm just going to continue with for example, 24 pixels, and I think it's okay. Let's come back here, hit refresh, and this is it. This is how 24 pixels look like. So, and another thing that I wanted you to know is that we can have multiple selectors in our tag. For example, well, now I said go ahead and select every b tag. What if I want to customize this I tag? So it's just pretty simple enough. We just go ahead and select the I tag. So we go ahead and select every I tag, and I want you to set the font size to 42 pixels, and let's change that to 20 pixels. I'm just changing the different values so that you can see how they look like, and this is it. This is the result that we have. And let's learn the second way of writing CSS codes. Well, the first way was actually using a style tag inside our head section. The second way is actually using a style attributes. we can actually append a style attribute to specifically to one tag. For that, we no longer need a selector because we are attaching a style attribute right to the tag itself. So this section here is called selector, and this is called property value and property value. Okay. For selectors, we will learn that this way is called tag selector. We are going to select every tag by the tag name. But there are other ways of selecting the tags we will see in future. But for now, we just learned this tag selector, and just have in mind that we have so many different ways of selecting attributes, tags, sorry. And this is it. The second way is actually using a style tag, and so here, because we are attaching the style tag specifically to the span, we no longer need to use selector for this. So I can go ahead and, for example, change the color to, for example, red. And as you can see, again, property value, property value. And what happens is you can go ahead here and hit refresh, and sure enough, the color is red. So this is it. This is all I wanted you to learn in this session. Just have in mind that you do not need to memorize every one of these color names, but just imagine there is actually color name for this and other values for this. And actually, let's use, for example, brown for this color, so that we I just wanted to use so many different values as I can. Brown for this, okay, and this is how brown looks like in this way as that we have. So this is it. This is enough for this session. So let's sum up what we learned in this session. So if we want to sum up what we learned in this session, well, the first thing that we learned was that attributes, and we use attributes to provide additional data for our tags. And as we know, some of the attributes are general and or global, for like that lang attribute, or we will see so many other attributes, and some of them are specific to one tag or maybe more tag, but it's specific to its tag actually. So, and we learned two ways of writing CSS, in head section and in a style attribute. So this is it. And this is one thing I wanted to say about CSS. In CSS, we just learn new properties, and we will learn what kind of values are used for this property. And in HTML, of course, we just learn new tags, and we learn what attributes could be attached to this tag and what attributes are general. That's it. This is HTML and CSS. So if we go to this map that we have, maybe call it map or whatever, these are the names that or phrases or words or whatever things that I want you to learn. For example, this is called attribute, this href. The whole href and google.com, the whole of it is called attribute. This is the attribute name, this is the attribute value, and this is the text inside this attribute. And actually, this is called the selector, property value. These are the words that I wanted you to know about. So this is it, and I hope to see you in the next session.